What's happening, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Stevie P today. Kev, we couldn't make it to our schedules work to line up that we could both be on the podcast today, but he sent me his picks. We'll go over those. We'll go over mine. I'll give you guys some plays that I like this week. And real quick, we'll go over Kev's. I guess we'll do that first. I'm just going to run down his entire list. That way you guys have it and see how he ranks it. I know some of you guys might want to follow his list. Some of you guys might want to follow mine. But so today we have Kev has Stafford at 1. We're going quarterbacks, obviously. He has Matt Stafford at 1, Tom Brady at 2. He's got Russell Wilson at 3. He got Dak Prescott at 4. He's got Roethlisberger at 5. He's got Goff at 6. He's got Newton at 7. He's got McCown at 8. Breeze at 9. Ryan at 10. Taylor at 11. And Eli Manning at 12. So then at tight end, he has, let's see this. At 10, he has Gronk, obviously. We have Gronk every week. We tell you guys that. Brait, Rudolph, Ingram, Jimmy Graham, Walker, Delaney Walker. He's got, who is this? Sorry, his handwriting's a little etchy. Jack Doyle. He's got Jack Doyle. He's got, let me see here. He's got ASJ. He's got Witten, Ebron, Henry, and Clay. And then for we'll just go defenses. You got Vikings, Rams, Jags, Seahawks, Steelers, Lions, Patriots, Panthers, Giants, Titans, Saints, Jets. And then for running backs, he has Lev Bell 1, McCoy at 2, Hyde at 3, Fournette at 4, Gurley at 5, Howard at 6, Freeman at 7, Gordon at 8, Ingram at 9, Mixon at 10, McCaffrey at 11, and Kamara at 12. And he's got Doug at 13, Powell at 14, Peterson at 15, Miller 16, McKinnon 17. He's got Jones 18. He's got DeMarco Murray, 19. Darko, 20. Duke Johnson, 21. Chris Thompson, 22. Amir Abdullah, 23. Tevin Coleman, 24. And then at wide receiver, he's got Antonio Brown, A.J. Green, Julio at 3. Hopkins at 4. Jones Jr. Okay, so Marvin Jones Jr. at 5. He's got Landry at 6, Demaryius Thomas at 7, Golden Tate at 8, Michael Thomas at 9, Brandon Cooks at 10, Dez at 11, Sterling Shepard at 12, Stephon Diggs at 13, Keenan Allen at 14, Funchess at 15, Robbie Anderson 16. Who is this? Oh, Smith-Schuster at 17. 18 is Adam Thielen. He's got Robert Woods, Devontae Parker at 20. Emmanuel Sanders, 21. He's got Danny Amendola at 22. T.Y. Hilton, 23. Deshaun Jackson, 24. Devontae Adams, 25. Jordy Nelson, 26. Rashard Matthews, 27. Kelvin Benjamin, 28. Sammy Watkins, 29. Mohamed Sanu, 30. Corey Davis, 31. He's got Curse at 32. Cooper Kupp at 33, Marquise Lee at 34, Jamison Crowder at 35, and Alan Hearns at 36. He's also got Ted Ginn as an honorable mention. Alrighty, so that is Kev's list. I actually like his list, especially defenses. I kind of have the defenses the same way, but, nothing really big stands out to me here. Except he has McCoy at 2. That's a little surprising. I thought, he would have him a little bit lower in the ranks because of the Saints defense. But just going over my list, so I have Big Ben at 1, actually. I have Brady at 2. I have Stafford at 3. I have Dak Prescott at 4. I have Drew Brees at 5. I have Jared Goff at 6. I have Jared Goff at 6. I got Matthew Stafford at 7. I have Matt Ryan at 8. I didn't do my list on Thursday, so I don't have the Thursday quarterbacks, guys. So if you don't hear me say Russell Wilson, I would have probably had him higher. But I have Cam at 9. I have Mariota at 10. I have McCown at 11, and I have Andy Dalton at 12. So for me, I'm just going to talk about a couple of these guys. Ben Roethlisberger, to me, has the best matchup of any quarterback this week. Indianapolis has been a sieve to opposing quarterbacks on the season. So I'm just going to go over the opposing quarterback points. They rank 26th. Quarterbacks that they've faced, week 1 is 22.5, 22.6, 25.4, 30.8, 31, 21, 23.1, 22, and 12. And the 12 came last week at Houston. Now, this is also a league where it is 6 points per passing touchdown with some bonuses. So if the numbers sound a little bit weird to you, that's why. The bonuses are, I think it's, over 400, you get some kind of bonus, but nobody's thrown for over 400 on them, so the bonuses don't really apply. They're giving up 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1 touchdowns. Basically giving up at least a touchdown a game. Through the air, and it just honestly to me, they're just a defense that can't stop anybody. They're a sieve. So, a matchup that you want to attack in DFS, I like Big Ben this week in DFS, in your cash lineups. I know a lot of guys are saying he's not cash viable, but I don't see, honestly, I'm looking at his price and I'm going to bring up FanDuel real quick, and I believe Big Ben is around 7,700 or something like that, but we'll bring it up and check it out. So let's see. Sorry for the dead air, guys. I'm going to pull it up right quick. So Big Ben is 7,600 on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, he is... My DraftKings app is being funny. I want to say he's like 6,600 in DraftKings or something like that. Something around that number. Let's see here. Yep. Anyway, so 7,600 on DraftKings. On FanDuel is a mid-tier. But for me, I just read you the numbers. There's really no quarterback to go up against Indy and score less than 21. The 12 last week was an outlier. They played against Houston, and we all know how terrible that quarterback situation has gotten. So, the outlier game is 12, but every other game is at least 21 fantasy points. In FanDuel scoring, that's probably more like 16 fantasy points. It was 306 and a touchdown. So you're talking every 25 yards a point, and then the touchdown is 4 points. So you're talking 4, 8, 12. You're talking 16 fantasy points basically in that game. That's not including any of the rushing totals. And that game was against, Tennessee. So Mariota, I don't believe Mariota ran in that game. So it's probably around 16 points for Marcus Mariota in that game. And that's the lowest score this year. That they've given up to quarterbacks. So just a team that I want to attack. The next guy I want to talk about is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has just been really, I said this the other day in the podcast, he's just been really safe. In this league, it's 18.4, 19.4, 26.6, 28.5, 35.7, 35.6. And then he had the 6 where the monsoon game, and 29.7 against KC. So, just really safe floor. There is no Zeke there for the next at least 4 weeks, so he's going to have to be chucking it up and figuring it out as he goes. And for me, I kind of like Zeke to be a top 5 quarterback rest of the way. He's basically been a top 5 all year. So, in this league, I believe, let's see what he ranks. I believe he ranks 5 or 6. He's the number 6 quarterback in this league. So, he's a top 5 guy the rest of the season. So, going down to the lower price, the lower quarterbacks that you guys could, if you need to take flyers on, I do like Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. He's a guy that, I don't really believe in the whole revenge narrative with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I do believe, guys play better against teams, when they are discarded the way, Fitzpatrick was. But in Fitzpatrick's case, the Jets, going up against the Jets, I think he could have a big game, but not for the reason of him getting, basically discarded. I think he could have a big game because, the Jets away from home have been giving up some points. So we will go to that and see where that is. The New York Jets. So the New York Jets at home have played much better. They gave up 12.9 to Miami. Jacksonville, they played 12.8 against New England, 19.9. Obviously, Tom Brady's the man, so whatever. It is what it is. Atlanta, he gave up 19.7, and then Buffalo at home. Was the last game they played, and Tyrod went bananas. That was the amazing Tyrod game last week. But away they're giving up 21 points to Buffalo, 27 points to Oakland, 21.9 to Cleveland, and then 32 to Miami. So today is an away game in Tampa. I could see Ryan Fitzpatrick giving them fits because they have been terrible on the road, stopping quarterbacks. So this is a road game, and I like Ryan Fitzpatrick in it. The next guy I will talk about, and then I'll be done with quarterbacks, is Cam Newton. Cam Newton, since getting rid of Calvin Benjamin, basically last game, he was 137 and no touchdowns. What saved his fantasy day was that he had 9 rushes for 86 yards and a touchdown. I think that continues. There's not really anybody to run the ball there. Christian McCaffrey looked okay against an Atlanta defense that's not very good. So to me, they played at home also. So, for me, I think Cam needs to run. There's no choice about the matter. He doesn't really have any other option but to run, and I think he continues to do that. I could easily see him getting 50 yards, the rest of season per game rushing, and throwing in a possible rushing touchdown, which is huge in fantasy football, along with 200 yards passing. The past 2 games he's been under 200, but he's going to throw up some 200-yard games when he gets used to his receivers. 250 games, 300 games. He's got Miami this week, who's just I think they've packed it in. They got the Jets, New Orleans, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Tampa Bay. All good matchups except I guess New Orleans at home is going to be tough, and Minnesota is going to be tough. But other than that, all Civ defenses that you're not worried about. So Cam Newton, rest of the season is going to be good, and this week I think he'll be good. So, just to quick this up, I'm not going to give you guys my ranks. I'm just going to talk about some guys. I gave you Kev's ranks. I'm not going to talk about the top 12 guys, the Melvin Gordons, the Freemans, I guess I will talk about Freeman, but, Carlos Hyde, Fournette, Gurley, McCoy, Bell, they're all top 12 guys that you're not worried about. But the guys you are worried about, we'll talk about them. Devontae Freeman, I know a lot of people are freaking out about Devontae Freeman. In this league, he is rounding back 14. He hasn't had over 50 rushing yards since week 7. He hasn't had a touchdown since week 4. But to me, the way this team is playing, they're eventually going to have to start running the ball a little bit more. Devontae Freeman's a little banged up, but and I know I've said this past week, 2 weeks actually, that they are going to have to start running the ball more, but 11 and 12 carries is just not getting it done. If you look at the beginning of the season statistics, he was 12 for 37 and a touchdown against Chicago, but after that it was 19 or 84 and 2, 21 106 and 1, 18 and 58 and a touch. So he's getting the carries, and these are all games they're winning. You know what I mean? They lost against the Bills. I mean, the Bills defense came in there and wrecked ass, but those are all games that they're winning. Now, in the games, in the past 4 games that they've lost, it's basically been, they beat the Jets. So let me refrain. So the last 3 of 4 that they lost, it was 9 for 68, 12 for 72, 12 for 41, 11 for 46. So, that's just not getting the job done. They need to give them the ball more, and, I think this is where it starts. Dallas right now is ranked 18th against running backs for this season. If you look at the numbers, against the Giants, they gave up 20.9 to the running back position. Against Denver, it was 34 for 164 and a touch. Against Arizona, they did a good job, 18 for 42. Against the Rams, 12 for 21, or 121, 21 for 28. One against Green Bay, and then it was 17 for 73, no touchdowns. Washington, they gave up 12 for 37, a touchdown, and then against Kansas City, it was 10 for 40. So the past 3 games, I would say they looked better, but it was at San Francisco, which San Francisco didn't have a choice but to throw. You guys remember they were getting their ass romped. Washington, there was a monsoon game, and Washington O-line was just devastated. And then Kansas City last week was like the most impressive I've seen them play against the run. So not a defense I'm worried about. I think Atlanta can get right in this game, and I like Devontae Freeman. Jordan Howard is another top 10 guy for me. Jordan Howard against Green Bay. Green Bay has been giving up the 25th most fantasy points to running backs. Chicago is at home in this game, and the last time they played, Chicago had 29 rushes for 103 and a touchdown. So, I think at home Chicago really owns this game. I don't know if Green Bay even scores in this game, and I just think that gives the opportunity for Jordan Howard to really power down and go run downhill the way he likes to do that. Jerick McKinnon is the next guy I want to talk about. Jerick McKinnon, at Washington today. Washington has actually been pretty good against the run. They're ranked 12th this season. I think Jerick McKinnon can get some receiving yards in this game. I think they are going to have to throw out of the backfield, and I could see him getting a couple of catches, maybe 5 catches for, let's say, 45 to 55 yards and a possible touchdown, along with, let's say, 12 rushing, or let's say 10 rushing attempts for another 40. So and possibly a touch. So I like McKinnon every week for a touchdown. Just the way he's being used, in his game so far this year, that he has actually been utilized. He has 3 out of 4 games he's had a touchdown. That's the bye week last week, but he's scoring. So that's what you want from your fantasy running back. In Green Bay week 6, he scored twice. So it's a guy that I like, and I'm going to continue to start him. DeMarco Murray has been bad, to say the least. You took him probably in the 2nd or 3rd round if you got lucky, and he just hasn't been producing. But, in this game with Cincinnati, so we'll go over the Cincinnati numbers. Cincinnati has actually been the 15th ranked rush defense. But honestly, I've seen them get exposed a couple of times this year. Against Jacksonville last week, they gave up 129 rushing yards on 35 attempts. In Pittsburgh, they gave up 39 attempts for 153. Against Baltimore, it was 41 attempts for 155. So they have been, ran on. And I think Tennessee wants to run the ball this week. So, I could see DeMarco having a good game. I don't know about a great game, but, I could say, let's say 16 to 20 touches for 80 to 90 yards total. And that's good enough to get you some points, and use an RB2 if you absolutely need him. Hopefully he gets in the box and helps your fantasy day out. Amir Abdullah, I've had some questions about Amir Abdullah. I'm not playing Amir Abdullah today. I'm staying away from Amir Abdullah. I don't have him in my top 24. For me, Okay, so Cleveland is a really good run defense. You know what I mean? They rank right now 8th in the league. They really haven't given up too many 100-yard games. They've only given up 2 100-yard games this season. And that's total. That's not just one running back. That's total. And I'm giving you guys these numbers. It's total for team. But they've only given up 200-yard rushers, or 100 yards rushing games to Baltimore and to Houston. And if you remember, they were losing to Baltimore pretty handily. So Baltimore just ran the ball 29 times. They've only given up 3 rushing touchdowns this year. They've been pretty solid. Amir Abdul has not been running the ball good, and their offensive line is not that good. So staying away from Amir Abdul. Enough said. Jonathan Stewart is another guy I got some questions about. If you have him on your team, I know I said it last week that I liked him to bounce back because of his schedule, but with the 2 fumbles last week, it makes it really hard to rely on him. I wouldn't drop him. I mean, if you're still on your team, I would just hold him and hope that today proves that they still have faith in him and give him some touches, because Miami against the rush, Miami actually ranks. Let's see here. So against the running back, Miami ranks 9th. They're pretty good. They have given up 2 100-yard games. They gave up 2 touchdowns last week to Marshawn Lynch. And they also gave up 2 touchdowns. 1 touchdown against the Jets and 1 touchdown against the Chargers. So, pretty good run defense. I only see one really big game here. It was New Orleans. They gave up 36.2 fantasy points to the running back position. So, it's a Monday night game, so hopefully Jay Stu comes up ready for it and does something. So Aaron Jones and Ty Montgomery, the other running backs I want to talk about. Both guys, to me, it's a tough matchup against Chicago. I just told you guys, Chicago, is a good defense, especially at home. They actually do rank kind of low at running back, and it's because they've given up a lot of touchdowns. They've also given up 4 100-yard games, but they're giving up a lot of touchdowns to running backs. They gave up 2 last week to New Orleans, 1 against Minnesota, 1 against Green Bay, 1 against Pittsburgh, 1 against Tampa Bay, 1 against Atlanta. The Green Bay game was Aaron Jones' first game that he started, that he came in and played well. He had, I believe it was like 13 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown, if I remember correctly. But, a defense that can be beat, but they play very good at home. And the other thing is Ty Montgomery started to, get some touches last week. I think this game is going to be too close for Ty Montgomery to be super involved. So if you have Aaron Jones, I'm starting him. But you do really have to watch this game and see what happens in this game, because if they do go with a full-time share and split, I don't know how vested I want to be in Aaron Jones anymore. So guys that I will mention that I recommend you guys starting as flexes is Rex Burkhead, Marlon Mack, C.J. Anderson. I'm sorry, guys, he's a flex to me now. And only in a dire situation if you don't have any better option at flex. Dion Lewis is a nice flex for me this week. Definitely somebody I would flex this week. I know Denver has been a tough defense, but Dion Lewis looks really good this year. I said that to you guys, and I think he has the ability to get you 8 to 10 points this week. They do throw him the ball. In every game so far, he has at least 1 catch, except the game against the Jets. He didn't have a catch in that game, but every other game he has at least 1 catch, and his high game is 3 catches. So, he's giving you points in the catching game, in the receiving game, and I like him this week. So, let's go to wide receiver. Wide receiver this week. Like I said, I'm not going to go over the top 12 guys. Your Antonio Browns, your Dez Bryants, your Hopkins, your Baldwins, your all those guys are good plays. But the guy we'll talk about is Sterling Shepard going up against San Fran. San Fran has been the 19th pass defense, defense against wide receivers. They've given up the 19th most fantasy points. They have a couple of 200-yard games given up to wide receivers. They've given up a touchdown in every game to wide receivers except one. That was a game against Indy. If you remember, that was the running back scoring game. But they've given up touchdowns in basically every game to wide receivers. So I don't see that. I don't see that being any different in this game. Sterling Shepard, play him if you got him as a wide receiver 2, and be happy about it. Adam Thielen, another guy, love this week. Adam Thielen. Washington gives up, the 6th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, and I know that sounds crazy, but guess what? Most of the points they do give up, and most of the touchdowns they give up, are to the slot receiver, which Thielen plays about 70% of the time. 70% of his snaps are out of the slot. So, if he's a person that you have on your team, get him in there. Stephon Diggs, also another guy that I like this week. I don't know if he's going to have a big game, but I think he'll have a good enough game to give you, low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 numbers. He does play in the slot. He moves into the slot every couple of plays. So he does get slot receiving touches. So if that's the case, I think he will have a nice, solid game for you. Emmanuel Sanders, somebody I'm staying away from. New England has not been good against wide receivers. They are actually, I think they're the worst team against wide receivers, actually. No, they're 30th. But the issue is Brock Osweiler. You guys saw what Brock Osweiler did last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, and Emmanuel Sanders had 1 for 30. So until I see Brock Osweiler throwing him the ball on a consistent basis, I'm not playing Emmanuel Sanders. Marvin Jones I have in my top 12, but I'm just quickly going to talk about Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones in the past week 3 has been since week 6 has been wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. No, I didn't make a mistake. He has been fantasy football's wide receiver 1. Okay, the guy has 6 for 96 and a touchdown, 6 for 128 and no touchdowns, 6 and 107 or 7 for 107 and 2 touchdowns. The guy has just been crazy consistent the past 3 weeks, and he gets a Cleveland defense that actually ranks 8th against the pass to wide receivers. But the problem is they give so many damn points up to tight ends, so many touchdowns to tight ends. It's it kind of skews the numbers a little bit, but I don't care. They're playing way too good, and this Browns defense is not very good. So Marvin Jones, I like him this week. I have him in my top 12. Mohamed Sanu has just been the model of consistency. The guy is basically getting you 6 catches every past 3 weeks. Okay, so the past 3 weeks. He's got 6 for 65, 6 for 74 and a touch, 3 for 23 and a touch last week. But at last week, that was just Matt Ryan just looked terrible. But Mohamed Sanu has been his touchdown receiver. So to me, I'm getting Mohamed Sanu in there, and the Dallas Cowboys ranked 27th against the wide receiver position. They've given up a touchdown in every game but 2 against the Giants, and we all seen what the Giants have been this year, and against San Francisco with a Bethel ran team, or Bethard, whatever the frick his name is. Bethard has been a terrible quarterback this year, but against every other quarterback they've given up at least a touchdown. And they gave up 2 touchdowns to Trevor Siemian to the wide receiver position, so Dallas defense, sucky butt. Play against them at all times. The last 3 guys I'll talk about is Devontae Parker. A lot of people have asked me questions about Devontae this week. The guy is just okay, so other than the Tennessee game, I just want to go over his number. In the Tennessee game is the game he got hurt, the second play of the game. He had 1 for 6. But in every other game, he is 4 for 85, 8 for 76 and a touchdown, 6 for 69, and then 5 for 76 last week. I don't see that changing. I don't think Carolina's defense is, any kind of, great. They're the 12th against passing offenses. Last week they gave up 42.6 fantasy points to the wide receiver position. They have given up a 36.6. They've given up a 30.1. They've given up a 43.1. And these are all wide receiver points that they've given up to the wide receiver. The reason that they're ranked so high is because they against Chicago, 1 receiver caught a pass for 8 yards in the Chicago game. If you guys remember, that was just that terrible game where the Chicago defense scored twice. But 1 receiver caught a pass in that game for 8 yards. Okay, so that really skews numbers. And then against Buffalo, who probably has had the worst receiving core in football, or the top bottom 3 worst receiving core in football, they give up 7 for 66. So, the numbers here are just outrageously skewed against the wide receiver position. This is not a good defense against the pass. Play him. T.Y. Hilton's the other guy I want to talk about. T.Y. Hilton, a lot of people saw the blow-up game last week. This is not a blow-up matchup. This is a sit-em if you got a matchup, you know what I mean? And I know people are like, oh, he's T.Y. Hilton and he blew up last week. Yes, he blew up against Houston. This week he's going to play Pittsburgh at home. I know it's a home game, and I told you guys to start him at home, but he also played Jacksonville at home and had 2 for 27. So start him at your own risk. If you want to start him, please don't start him as a wide receiver 2. Put him in your flex. The last guy I want to talk about is Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson has just been complete trash since Aaron Rodgers has gone down. Last week was his best game. He was 4 for 35 and no touchdowns. It's really hard and depressing to see what has happened to Jordy Nelson since Aaron Rodgers went down. And for all of you owners that drafted Jordy Nelson, I'm sorry. But you cannot play this guy anymore. You know what I mean? Literally, you can only play this guy if you need to have a flex position. Other than that, he's riding your bench. You're not dropping him because, if they do get some kind of rapport eventually, you want to have Jordy because he's a great receiver, but the quarterback situation is just completely dire. Honestly, I hope they just... I don't know what the hell I hope. He's just terrible. I hope they figured something out. Maybe, I don't even know who the hell the backups to what the hell is his name? The backup quarterback there. You know what I mean? But, I don't know. It's a tough situation, guys. It's a really tough situation, and you're just going to have to grind through it. So, at tight end, you know what I mean? Me and Kev both love Gronk this week. He's going against the Broncos. The Broncos have given up the 30th most fantasy points to the tight end position. You're starting Gronk every week. Jack Doyle's a player I want to talk about going up against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh actually ranks 9th against the tight end position, but they are giving up, anywhere from 1 to 10 catches a game. I mean, their low game is 1 against Jacksonville. Jacksonville doesn't have any wide tight ends that they throw to a lot. And 10 against Baltimore. So, they've given up 3, 5, 4, 2, 4, 6 catches, and then, 62 yards, 45 yards, 19, 79, 14, 37, 30, and 70, and then 2 touchdowns this year. I don't care. Jack Doyle is the basically highest targeted player on that team, and I don't see that changing. He's a safe floor. He's going to catch probably 5 balls in this game. Hopefully it's for 50 and a touchdown, but I'm playing him every week. So if you have Jack Doyle, in the past 2 weeks the guy has 20 targets. 20. I didn't stutter. 20. Since week 6 he has 33 targets. So, the guy, 33 receptions. I'm sorry, not targets. 33 receptions. So the guy is just ridiculously being targeted, and I don't see that changing. So I'm playing this guy every week. Charles Clay is a nice name to bring up. I'm happy he's back. I'm a Bills fan, so happy he's back, and he has just been tearing it up. Before he got hurt, he basically was double digits every single week except the game against Carolina. We all know Carolina is great against the tight end, but if you have him this week, I'll play him. If he's definitely starting, you're playing Charles. Because you probably don't have a better option, which is why you held on to him for 4 weeks while he was hurt. ASJ is the other guy I'll talk about. ASJ has a pretty good matchup here this week against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay against the tight end position, I believe they rank 6th in the league, or 5th in the league. But it's a revenge game, and this I believe in. ASJ was basically completely booted out of there. They lost all faith in him. So I think he's going to play his heart out to try to score a touchdown in this game. And I think he has the ability to do that. So I'm going to play ASJ everywhere. I have him ranked at 10, but regardless, 10 is a startable tight end. David Njoku was going to be my honorable mention. David Njoku and Ed Dixon are 2 guys that I want to talk about real quick. Detroit gives up points to the tight end position. They are ranked 10th in the league, but they gave up 175 against Carolina. Green Bay has no tight ends. Pittsburgh has no tight ends. New Orleans has a shitty tight end. It's 2 for 27 and a touchdown. Minnesota, Kyle Rudolph had 3 for 46, so that's a good tight end. Atlanta, Austin Hooper. I don't know why people are so high on Austin Hooper, but to me he's a shit tight end. And then against Evan Ingram, who's a good tight end, 7 for 108 and a touchdown. For me, Cleveland, Njoku, they're going to have to throw the ball. I think they're going to be down in this game. They're going to have to throw, and I think Njoku can get involved and, maybe 3 or 4 catches for, 40, 50 yards and hopefully a touchdown. But, if you need a tight end, I don't hate starting Njoku. Ed Dixon is the other tight end. We all saw what the hell the Miami Dolphins were doing with Jared Cooks last week. They ranked 28th against the tight end. They've given up 2 100-yard games. They've given up touchdown in 4 different games. They've given up at least 3 catches to the tight end position in every game this year. Ed Dixon, I think he's going to be targeted in this game, and I think he could have a good game. So, the past 4 weeks, which is kind of as far as I go back to how teams are playing. They gave up 7 for 48 against Atlanta. They gave up 4 for 47 and a touch, 6 for 35 and a touch, and 8 for 126. So, like Ed Dixon, if you absolutely need a tight end, somebody you can pick up off the waiver wire and play this week. All right, now we'll get to the defenses. Defenses that I want to talk about, to me, the Bears, if you can pick up the Bears off the waiver wire, please do it. Green Bay has just been freaking terrible. Since Aaron Rodgers has gone down in the Minnesota game, to defensive, they've given up 22 points, 10 points, 11 points. They're just giving up points like crazy to defenses, because they can't score. So, they've given up in that Minnesota game. They gave up 4 sacks and 3 interceptions, 1 sack against New Orleans and 1 interception, and then 3 sacks against Detroit. So Chicago is good. They're a good defense, especially at home. Love them. Play them. The Steelers defense going into Indy, I think they could be good. Indianapolis gives up the most fantasy points to opposing defenses in the past 4 weeks. They've given up 10, 33, 18, and 13. So I love Pittsburgh this week. Play them. And the next and last defense I'm going to talk about is the St. Louis Rams. Going up against Houston, we know what the hell Houston has been doing the past couple weeks. They rank 25th points given up to the the defensive position. And in the past 4 games they've played, they gave up 12 points to Kansas City, 10 points to Cleveland. 10 points to Cleveland, guys. 10 points to Cleveland. Okay, 10 points to Cleveland. I really shouldn't even have to read any more into this. Anyway, 5 sacks to Seattle. They gave up 13 points to Seattle, 5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and a touchdown. 2 sacks to Indianapolis and a fumble recovery. Gave them 14. And they didn't score shit. This team sucks. This team is going to suck. And, we talked about, the Deshaun Watson injury, how bad it sucks. But we also said how it's going to kill this offense. And it obviously has. So, that is the podcast today, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be back on Tuesday. So if you guys have any questions, you can hit us up on Facebook. And our Facebook is the number 4 TH Inches Podcast. Inches Fantasy Football Podcast. And we'll pop up. You can see a picture of a championship belt, and that's us. You click on follow and subscribe, and we will get to any questions you guys might have. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking. Peace out, y'all. Let's get it.